What motivated you to pursue a career in law?
One presupposes that you know when you go to varsity what you want to do. Well, of course you don't. How would you ever have any conception of what you want to do?
Yeah.
So I had to try and choose a career path without knowing what career really to follow. And a law degree is a very flexible degree. So I decided to do a law degree and then see. I didn't know that I was going to necessarily like the law. I did like it. I liked it when I studied it. And so I did decide to go and apply to do articles and become a lawyer. And I enjoyed it. But I didn't know that I was going to. So my motivation was just to have a degree that's actually a very versatile degree.
Tell us about your journey to become the first woman executive at our firm.
People looking at me can't believe that the first woman partner is what is you. Because nowadays it goes without saying that there are so many women who are in law, so many women who are partners. But in the mid-70s, there were none. Certainly not at Edward Nathan, which is where I started. I've only ever had one job.
Yeah.
So when I started then, there were no women partners. There were no black partners. There were white male partners, and that was it. But I had come from a school where I think they encouraged you to feel that you could make your way. And I had come from a home where my mom certainly encouraged both me and my sister to feel that we could do whatever we felt to put our minds to. So we were always of the view that life would open up for us. Now, that was a very unrealistic view. In truth, I had friends, women, who were at varsity with me. Life did not open up for them at all. They also finished their degrees and went to do articles and so on, and they were treated absolutely terribly. You know, they were the tea pourers, they were the fetch me my dry cleaning ladies, and they hardly were given any law to do. I just assumed life would fall into my lap, and I was lucky. And I know looking back in retrospect, I ascribe it to luck. And the luck was, one, choosing the right firm. How do you know?
You don't.
What do you know? You apply for a job, how do you know? I was very lucky to go to Edward Nathan, which really was everything one would have wanted of him to be, in the sense of being highly ethical, highly honest, not used to women at all. But some of the partners, and not all of them, were open to the idea of women progressing, but not all of them were. So I was lucky in that. And then I was lucky in having two mentors. So for my first year, I did nothing but debt collecting, and I could have been consigned to debt collecting for the rest of my life, and I promise you wouldn't have stayed in law. But I then was given the opportunity to work with one of the senior partners who did commercial work, which was, I just assumed, okay, well, that's fine, that's will happen. It just didn't happen to my friends who did law. They just weren't given those opportunities. So I worked for Roy Randall, and he was very supportive, and he gave me responsibility. And I was a second year article clerk, and I was doing JSE work with him. I was doing really interesting commercial work. And then after I finished my articles, I was then transferred to work for Michael. And I worked for Michael. Now, both of these guys were incredibly supportive. So it's luck. I could easily have been sent to work for somebody else who just wasn't so interested. It's really difficult to know until you've seen it how important it is that somebody else actually wants you to progress in your career. Most people, not so much, for various reasons. So I was lucky, and I know that. So I had been at the firm for 4 years, 2 of which were articles. When they said, "Do you want to be a partner?" I went, "No, how can I be a partner? What do I know about? I'm a baby. I can't possibly be a partner." I think, it's like a bizarre attitude, isn't it? But anyway, it was. But anyway, in the end, I did become a partner. I was the first woman partner. The guys in the firm, men partners, really were a bit flummoxed by me. So the first day that I went into the boardroom, where everybody met every day for lunch, small in those days, remember, they all stood up. And they all looked at me. They didn't know what to do. Here was this strange and mythical creature in their midst. So it was a learning curve for everybody. And right place, right time, I think. Well, right time, not so much, because it took still a long time for other women to progress, and even more time for black lawyers to progress. Although, I may just tell you, just for your own interest, when I came to Edward Nathan, they used to only take 2 article class candidate attorneys every year. When I got there, the 2 guys, there were 2 men. So it was also quite unusual for them even to take women as article clerks. There were 2 men above me. They were both black. What did I know? I was a baby. I assumed this was the norm. They'd take women, they'd take black. These were black men. They weren't black women, but that was what I assumed how life worked. Please, I assumed it. Wow, that was so unusual. So unusual. So things have changed. I don't think anybody today can have any conception of how much things have changed.
And you did say that this was just purely based on luck, but I think you definitely opened the floor to other women.
Yeah, no, I think I did. I mean, there's no doubt that once the glass ceiling was broken, and not only at Edward Nathan, other firms, because then remember, I was dealing with other firms the whole time as well, and I was now a partner, I had status. It did definitely break the ceiling and open the door to other women. There's no doubt about it.
What challenges did you face in this traditionally male-dominated industry, and how did you overcome it? I know you covered it a little bit here in your journey, but what would you say was the peak challenge, and how did you overcome that? Is there anything that happened that you can recall?
I mean, obviously all lawyers had challenges between balancing their home life and their work life. You never put your pen down and went home and that was the end of it. You took work home with you. It never left you. You never felt at the end of the day, I've finished my work. You never felt that. But that was what everybody had to contend with. If you're talking about as a woman, as I say, I was lucky. I was treated really well, was treated with respect. So there were scenarios, but they were little scenarios. They were little pinpricks. Like going for a celebratory lunch when something was finished at the Rand Club. You go to finished on the JSE. You go to the Rand Club, was the place to go to in those days. It was a completely male bastion. Hardly a woman ever set foot in the door there. And I remember the first time I went there, I was really excited because here was part of Joburg's history, and I really wanted to have a look around and see. Wow, let's see. This is the beginnings of Joburg, was the Rand Club. But when I said that I wanted to walk down the stairs and have a look, they all went, no women are allowed to walk down the stairs, only the lifts. Into the lift with you, please. So those are the kind of things. But they were pinpricks. I have to say that 99.9% of the time, I never felt assailed. I never felt demeaned or belittled. It was such a rare occasion. So I was lucky.
Yeah.
I think I was lucky.
I love that. Thank you. And can you mention some career highlights that you're willing to share?
Yeah, so I think I am proud of the fact that I was involved in, I think, maybe somebody will challenge that, the two first BE transactions. Well, they weren't BE, that's not quite correct. The first one was a women empowerment transaction before the BE Act ever came into force. Yeah, so, and that was fun doing, and also we really felt we were doing something worthwhile. It's being wound up now, only now. It's lasted all these years, and the beneficiaries, who were all women, white and black, of course, got money out of it. So it was really a nice thing to be involved in, to work out and to do. But also I was involved in what I think was the first BE transaction, which was a black empowerment transaction as opposed to a women empowerment transaction with one of my clients, which was, so I did a lot of BE work in my career. In fact, so much so that I was involved with one of our big listed clients in developing all the rules for the BE sector of the JSE. So that was a very big and difficult process to overcome. So that was good. I kind of feel I did do things there which did have some lasting impact. They were the maybe barn breakers as well, maybe breaking the glass ceiling for other similar transactions.
And how did you balance the demands of being an executive with your personal life? How did you overcome those challenges?
You know what, it was difficult, but my husband and I didn't have children. I think if we'd had children, it would really have been almost impossible. I think that women who manage to balance running a home and children with a professional career are fantastic. I really do. My husband was also a professional, not a lawyer, but he understood what being in a profession was. We all worked, both of us, and in fact, my friends who were lawyers all worked much harder than any of our friends who were not in the legal profession. They could all not believe how hard we worked. So it was, as I've said, all-consuming. But I was lucky in one way. Of course, the other ways that I haven't got children, so of course missed out on that. But it did mean that I was able to, didn't have to balance so much.
How have you seen the role of women in law and leadership evolve over the course of your career?
Well, as I said, it's completely and utterly different. No one today, I don't think women today entering the profession could have had the conception even of how few women there were in the professions at that time. I mean, it's been a gradual. It was gradual. It didn't happen all at once, but huge and profound change. So I remember going to a lecture by a woman lawyer, who was trying to encourage women, and I remember what she said, and I got so cross, where she said, do you know, she said, I've been lucky. So I thought, oh, well, she's had the same experience. And you said to me, my husband permitted me to go to work. But when I heard that, I got cross. I wrote her a letter afterwards and said, sorry, don't think anyone wants to hear my husband permitted me to do this. Sorry, did you permit him to go to work? I mean, really. Yeah. So it's been such a profound change. I mean, I think nowadays it's taken for granted that women and men work side by side, shoulder by shoulder, and nobody would pay the slightest bit of attention to it. Nobody would even think about it. But it wasn't like that. It really wasn't. So it was a small incremental thing. It wasn't done all at once, but it's happened, and not necessarily fully, but it has happened.
And what advice would you give to women starting their careers in law today?
Firstly, it's hard as a profession. Okay, so it's not for everyone. You know, I don't think that people must be deluded into thinking that it necessarily is for them. It's very all-intrusive in your life. You can't. I don't think you can. Well, I suppose you may be able to do small portions of the law, maybe not so rigorous and difficult and intrusive. But you know, if you want to have a career in law in most the areas of law. It's hard, and you need to say to yourself, is that what I want? That's number one. How am I going to balance a family with that? Number two, it's really important, as I saw, it's really important to make sure, as best as you can, life doesn't always throw you all those opportunities, but to make sure as best as you can, that you work with people who want to see you, men or women. Don't think this only applies to men. Men or women who want to see you progress, who take pleasure in your achievements and don't want to hold you back because they think that you'll show them up, or because you'll take their clients, or for whatever reasons people might have. It's really important. And when you're young, you are idealistic. You think everybody is nice. Not necessarily so. So it's very important that you try and get people to mentor you who will help you as opposed to hinder you.
And how would you choose your mentor, or does your mentor choose you?
So in the beginning, of course, you've got no choice about anything. But as your time goes on, especially if you stay for a reasonable period in a firm, you obviously get to know who the people are, and you can then make positive steps yourself. In the beginning, of course, you go where you're assigned. But quite often people don't realize that they could do better if they had someone who had a positive attitude towards them. Not always, of course, people do that. But I'm talking from my own experience that I was so lucky, and I know that my progress was so aided by having two men, but it could have been two women, not then, but now it could be two women, who really wanted to see me succeed. It's a big thing.
From a personal perspective, looking back, what advice would your current self provide to yourself starting out in your career?
Do you know, not very much, in truth. I was lucky. It is, but that's me, to my mind, very important to work for a firm that believes in honesty, ethics, and truth, and reputation. And you could easily fall into a situation where that doesn't apply. So I was lucky I came to the right firm. I was lucky. I don't know what else would I have changed? Nothing really.
That's amazing. So we are working at the right place.
We're
lucky.
You can't actually imagine how important it is to have honest, decent people around you. I saw that with one of my clients he wasn't a lawyer. He worked for a crook. He was a sweet, innocent guy, and by the time he came to be out of there, he was a crooked, dishonest guy. And you don't realize how people around you can change you for the worse. You think that you are, I'm honest and decent and I won't ever behave. What happens is the lines get blurred slowly, and you lose touch with those ethics. And so it's so important. It's so important to be in an environment where you've got people who you know are always going to be acting in the best interests of their clients, or not in the best interests of themselves, in the best interests of their employees, in the best interests of the country. It doesn't matter, whatever it might be. It's very important.
That closes all of the questions that we have. Thank you so much for your time.